We're living for the moment now, we're one with the world. I can't lose this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. Love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah. No what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Lifting me, lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what it say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like you're chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah. What, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Know what I need, I know what I need. You'll find the keys,
Chasing love in an empty bar. Pour a drink till I make it past. The midnight hour seems to come and go, but I know. Walk on up with a drink in hand, sipping mixes cause you can. And all the lights begin to switch off. You're chasing the light, holding on for life. Holding on for life, feeding the high, chasing the night, chasing the night. Hotel rooms and city squares, champagne bottles, drum and snare. The sights and cities seem to fall away when you stay. Locked in love for a night or two, losing sleep just to get a few. Day to day you wanna stay out, you're chasing the light, holding on for life, feeling the high, chasing the light, chasing the night, chasing the night, chasing the night, holding on for life, feeling the high, chasing the night, chasing the night.
We're living for the moment now, we're one with the world. I can't lose this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. Love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't. Oh, baby. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Lifting me, lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what to say.
Hello, and welcome everybody back to RCI TV. Hope you guys tuned in to the Friday Endurance Championship yesterday at Zandvoort. Was one heck of a race. Got to watch a little bit of it during my little work lunch hour. However, the man that was there, Mr. Jesse Lee, is back with us tonight. Jesse, final round of Night Owl tonight here at Suzuka. 90 minutes today. But first, I want to hear a little bit about the Friday Champ last night. I heard that was one heck of a race.
Well, hello everybody out there. Hello, Mr. Mike Jones. And yeah, it's great to be back. I actually kind of like doing these races back to back, sort of on the weekend. But yes, the Endurance Championship all rolling on. Second round last night. And if you did not see it, then you missed out. It's a fantastic race. Surprise winner. I'm not going to spoil who won or how, but absolutely surprising. And right up to the line, there was a fight between second and fourth place, like all the way through those positions. Fantastic stuff. So go ahead and tune in for that. But I was literally exhausted. 2 hours of mental, physical
Gymnastics?
contest. Yeah, it was. It was trying to figure out exactly what was going on, how it happened, and absolutely incredible stuff. So go back and watch that at some point. But holy cow. And we still got 6 more rounds of that championship, Mike. 6 more rounds. But hello, everybody. We should mention this is RCI TV. I'm Jesse Lee. This is Mike Jones. And we are here for the finale, the 90-minute special of Night Owl, the final night. And if the chat room that we have for the drivers in this championship is anything to go by, it is going to be an insane finale.
Insane about sums up this championship. I feel like these guys and girls in this race, or this championship rather, have just been battling non-stop. Looking at the standings, unfortunately, we don't have up on the screen, but I'm looking at the standings here on the back. So let's run through the top couple places in pro here, right? Ismail Lebrec, 222 points out in front. Not that much of a surprise. Lebrec has been just showing a very dominating performance overall. Conway, Gillies, Bellasane, and Blanton in the V12 with very consistent finishes, all within about 50 points of Lebrec. And if you look at third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, there's only about 50 points between them as well. This championship in pro is just a toss-up. I don't know that we can really call it. I think Lebrec's got the best shot. He is 12 points ahead of P2, but Conway has been encroaching Jesse Lee. And looking at AM, I mean, who knows what's going to happen. There's only 6 points between Delau and Yimaz in first and second, and only 5 points below them to third, and 7 points below them to fourth and fifth, who are tied. The AM and pro splits in this championship are just so close here in points, and I don't know who's going to win. I really don't. I got nothing.
Yep, same here. I have no idea who's going to win. And the fantastic thing, folks, is this is after several races. This is what, the 5th or 6th race in the championship, the finale tonight. And we have made it this far. It has been a up and down series. And if you wonder when the checkered flag falls tonight, how we got here, RCI TV, we got your back. Just go back in our backlog VODs and watch the entire series. It's one of those things, Mike, I just kind of feel like that if you tried to pitch it to Warner Brothers, they would throw the script out and say that that's not believable. That would not have possibly ever happened. And it's just been that kind of way. And that's sort of the tone here at RCI, is that we have incredible talent and we have incredible races, and a lot of them, I mean, I go to work and I tell people about these races and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, that sounds exciting. And, you try to get more people into racing, but my goodness, just how we got here, just looking at this points table, is absolutely incredible. Qualifying underway here, 12 minutes left in the session. Everybody getting out, trying to get that first lap under their belt. You'll get a couple shots around here to run a quick lap.
Yeah, 15 minutes of qualifying. It's only a 2-minute lap, depending on who you are. It's about a 2:03, 2:04 for me. For men like Mr. Silva here, Mr. Blanton, or or Keezy Lebrec might be talking at 158 or so, but somewhere around 2 minutes. So plenty of time to get out here, drop down some laps. Silva here for the vacuum cleaner boys, paired up with Mr. Conway. They are back in third in the overall team points. Now the team points are also pretty close in pro as well. We've only got about 20 points between first place and fourth place in pro for the top 4 teams. The AM teams a little farther ahead. The Lexi. We're gonna say the Lexi. The Lexi have done a really good job. Lacking Liveries Racing, really excellent job at bringing home the team points championship. They're 44 points ahead. Unless they just have an abysmal showing tonight, I think they will probably lock that one in. But below them, P2, 3, 4 are all within about 6 to 7 points of each other. That's the Simbro Sport, the Miku Mercs, and Team Oversteer. The Porsche, Merc, and Audi teams. These guys all doing pretty well for their laps as well. Silva has put down the first qualifying lap. Not too shabby, a 2:01.2. I'm expecting that to get closer to the 59 mark, though. Track temperature, 23 degrees, with, of course, track in optimum. That should mean these guys hook up pretty well, and there are a couple fast laps right there. Yimaz, Blanton, Robles, and Brunier all slapping down some laps. Yimaz putting down the 2:00.5 lap, with Blanton just a half a tenth behind him at a 2:00.609. But we're going to see these guys slap down some laps here. I would not be surprised to see them get into the low 59s to high 58s even. And of course, the man that I want to see slap down some laps here, Jesse Lee, is Lebrec. Currently in the pits, has not gotten out to put a lap down, and I'm really curious to see how he does. Obviously, he's been dominating the qualifying performances for all 4 other races of this championship. But can he do it here?
I don't know, but something interesting here that I think I'm going to share with the viewers and share with you as well. I was talking to Lebrec, or actually Lebrec was talking to me before practice started today, and he had very few words to say to me, but the words that he did say was, "You're not ready," and he had a wry smile on his face, and Conway was also present, and he was asking, "What do you mean by that?" And he goes, "Nope, you guys are just not ready." So I don't know what that means, but I'm afraid. And now that he's just sitting in pit road, I'm even more afraid of what's going to happen here. His team has something up their sleeve. You see a lot of people struggling right there, for whatever reason. I mean, it is a very difficult part of the track, but yeah, it's very interesting. Lebrec talking about not being ready for something, though I'm not sure what it is. But I see Conway is in pit road as well, so I wonder if maybe those teams are up to something a bit mischievous today as qualifying continues to roll on. Bellasane does do the first 59 of the session. 59.76 takes pole away from Alistair Gillies, who is still in the 2-minute bracket. I think somebody might flirt with a 58 given the current track conditions. 22 degrees, no wind, track optimum. 58's possible.
I definitely think so as well. Interestingly, we don't have a lot of Mercs or Astons throughout this field, and that's really what you're going to see with the strength here. We can see Mia Swenson there, who she's shown to be pretty quick through this 9L championship. Not quite up to full pro pace, though I know that she is very strong at this track. It's one of her most comfortable tracks, and being in the Mercedes, this track being very strong as well, she should put in a good showing. Of course, at that 2-minute point 5 mark at the moment. Here she is on screen now for the Miku Mercs. Number 6, paired up with Sam Budgeon, who is down in 16th position, has not quite put in a lap yet. But she's going to show down, I think, a pretty good qualifying race and potentially a pretty good race here overall. Yimaz, of course, in that Porsche, though, doing pretty well. Yimaz up here only 8 tenths back from Bellasane as well in that AM class, and that's a good showing from him. He, of course, doing pretty well in the overall driver standings in P2. Patrick Delau is the one in P1. Just in 4th place, I believe that is overall for AM. Yeah, 4th place overall for AM. So he's almost a second off pace from his P2 opposition there, Jesse, and that could potentially cost him. There's only 6 points between them in the championship. Delau's really got to make sure that he gets a good finishing position tonight.
Yeah, he sure does. This is, again, like you said at the beginning, this is all to play for. Nothing is set in stone. There's so many positions up in the air, and it is going to take a minute after the dust settles for us to get a final picture of what this is going to be like at the end. And we are glad that you guys are with us, though at the moment, we're none the wiser ourselves. So this is going to be a process tonight. I think this is one of the most competitive championships I've ever been a part of. Not saying that I haven't been part of a lot of competitive championships. I
That's just
have,
saying a lot.
but yeah, this is the most chaotic end to a championship I have seen. And oh, by the way, Mike, whose idea was it to make this a 90-minute finale?
You know, Jesse, I don't really know. I'd personally like to blame Ryan Gill. However,
Yeah,
I do believe that regardless of wanting to blame Ryan Gill or not, that one's going to be on me.
nope,
This
nope,
was
nope. Ryan Gill's fault.
okay. It's you heard it, folks. It is Ryan Gill. Either way, yeah, this is the one that we had in the first night out championship that we started to do. The finale that we didn't get a chance to do was supposed to be a 90-minute finale at Bathurst. So it's I think at this point going to be kind of tradition in the night out championship. At this point, I think when I continue the seasons, that finale will likely be a little bit of a longer race. We're flirting with formats for the next Night Owl Season 2. Might run a little sprint race format, in fact, something like a 20-minute into a 30-minute race or something similar to that. There's been some discussion on Discord about it. We might not have just a traditional 60-minute with a pit stop. Might do something weird. And, Night Owl is really where we can do that at. These guys are kind of out here a little bit more of a more relaxed championship. Not that it's not competitive, like Jesse said, this is one of the more competitive championships I think we have seen points wise for quite a while. And these guys coming out with a very strong showing across all championship or across all races. Even a couple of the guys who haven't made it to a couple of the races, they've been just consistent finishers up near the top of the points and are still up in that fighting position for the top 5. And that's something that I really like about the point system that we run is, even if you miss one race, doesn't necessarily mean you're just out of the championship. You can come in here, and if you show strong showings, you might not take P1, but you can fight for that podium position. And that's what we're seeing here. Urquizy has taken over the pole position, flirting with those 58s. Currently not up on this lap here, Jesse, but look at the boys right here. H3 Racing, Urquizy and Belisane, the two most consistent teammates we have seen through this championship, P1, P2 in qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about them the entire time from the start of the green flag as Urquizy just goes offline there, decides to make the world's most expensive lawnmower. But yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it, that they have been the dominant team in the championship, but they have been surrounded by other drivers who have constantly been involved in their fight for the overall at the end. So they have been a fantastic team. We've questioned sometimes because they've had to race each other how they were going to go about that, but they've done it basically the same way they'd race anybody else, which is kind of what you want to see. No real team orders, just gentlemanly driving, and that's kind of what we're going for. But Urquizy and Belisane been a fantastic team. There's not been a race this season where they've not been in the podium talks, and there's no wonder why they are where they are in the team championship. Would be nice for them though, as they are 1-2 right now. They have not ever finished 1-2 in a race this season though. And how sweet would that be here in the finale to pull off something like that? Still got 90 minutes of racing to go, plus 2.5 of qualifying. And I'm not so sure that 59.367 is safe from any of the other drivers. And oh, by the way, Harry Conway and Ishmael Lebrec have left pit road for the first time, Mike.
Yeah, this is going to be a tight finish for them. They're going to come out of the pit lane here, 2 minutes to go. They're going to have time for one lap, one Super Pole lap style that we're going to have. I have a theory as to why these guys were not quite out of the pits. Conway and Lebrec, of course. Ooh, there goes Conway. That is going to cost him any sort of chance he has. He's going to have to go out with flat spots or return to pit. He does not have time doing their outlap, and he go ahead and tags the wall. He's going to probably return to pits from the look of it. That means Harry Conway will not set a time from P2 Pro, will not set a qualifying time Lebrecht, of course, will have a chance to set one, but if he invalidates his lap or anything like that, that puts him and Conway P1, P2, and Pro back at the back. He is chasing down that other Audi there in the 22 car, I believe. Oh no, that's 22nd position. That is the 28. Is that Conway ahead of him still? He did not return to
No.
pits, so that
Yeah,
is Conway ahead of him.
That is Harry Conway.
Yeah, I thought I saw him flash back to pits. I apologize. So that is Conway. A
Oh,
little bit of damage there, a little bit of a contact, and they're going to take each other out. And there it is.
More carnage! More carnage as more cars continue to pile in up the snake on the back straight here. Cars piling into one another. The Lebrecht, leader in the championship, waits late to put in a qualifying lap and will not get a qualifying lap in. Contact on his flying lap has resulted in him returning to pit road, and the fireworks, it's not quite late enough yet, but the fireworks are already going off as Urquiza is coming around to finish another lap. Can he improve? We will see. I don't think, he did not. Was a little bit off of his time.
Yeah, that is, however, Bellasane, he's only about a third of the way into his lap. He is just a little bit up, a tenth now at the moment as he's approaching the Dunlop curves. He's got potential here to encroach on Urquiza, and it's interesting because, Bellasane has shown to be the faster of the two. Out of Bellasane, out of the H3 racing team, between Bellasane and Urquiza. So it's actually kind of interesting to see Urquiza be out here being quicker than Bellasane overall. Yeah, by 4/10 at that. Whether he just found the perfect lap or not, it's going to be interesting. But I'm curious to see if Urquiza is able to hold ahead of Bellasane for this particular race. Of course, Bellasane is a couple points ahead of his teammate in the points standings, but only by 10 points. And 10 points doesn't go very far in our points system. So, first place gets 58, and you get bonus points for top 10, bonus points for top 5, top 3, and top 2, and the win. So 58 points for P1, and the next spot down is 53. These guys could shake it up a little bit here. Bellasane is 2/10 up as he gets into the final chicane here. Doesn't look like it will be enough to get up to P1, but he's going to come out of the final chicane, try and push for that just a little bit more. He's going to get a couple tenths, but it's not going to quite be enough. He's going to finish at that 59.457. Very close, within a tenth to his teammate Urquiza, but that is H3 Racing on the front row.
So you're telling me they're running the same setup with lap times like that, right?
Yeah. that is exactly what I'm telling you, Jesse Lee. However, what is interesting here, I've just noticed Patrick Delau has never improved on his time. What is that? P1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, P7 in AM, qualifying for our AM class points leader.
My head is going to explode. This is incredible. And we're going to watch Mia Swinson come across the line. We said that they've not had the finishes that Mia would like to have, but they have had the pace. We'll see if they're able to improve on this lap. They're third in class, but 7th overall. Do they improve? Yes, she does. Mia Swinson improves to 6th. And most importantly, perhaps, 2nd in class. It's going to be Urquiza in the 404 on pole position. Bellasane 2nd. Alistair Gillies will take 3rd on the grid. Reisner will be in that 706, will be number 1 in AM. They'll be separated. Cody Blanton in 5th, and then Mia Swinson 2nd in AM, 6th on the grid. And Yilmaz will settle for 7th in the number 7 and 3rd in their class. Then Mathis, Silva, Robles is your top 10. Brunier, Winkler, Nell, Lehman, Nearjack, Hopkins, Delau, all the way back in 17th. Gill, Bugden, Foxmore, Conway, and Lebrecht. Conway and Lebrecht, 2nd and 1st, respectively, in the championship, Mike, and they're starting dead last and shotgun on the grid. Absolutely insane.
Dead last. It's going to be interesting. However, guys, before we get to the grid, we do actually have to do just a quick stream and server restart. Sorry, some little technical issues going on in the back end. So the stream will restart just briefly. Nick will be down for just a moment. We will come back up. We will get back into practice for a few minutes. The qualifying positions that Jesse just listed off will save. And so we'll have a few minutes of practice back into the race. We'll be back with you in just a couple minutes.
this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. I want it, love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah, no what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't, oh, baby. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Lifting me, lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what he say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like you're chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. You know what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my.
All right, guys, we should be back. Apologies about that. The race server decided it wanted to get completely stuck at 3 a.m., which was not supposed to be our race time today. So we did a quick restart, and we are getting back in. Again, qualifying positions will be saved. Once everybody gets back in, we will push over to the grid. So if you stand by with us for just a moment, we will be back on the grid time and ready to roll. And of course, Jesse Lee, we will have some exciting 90 minutes of racing to happen. Any thoughts on this Lebrecht and Conway deal? Because this is going to be interesting.
Well, one thing's for sure, they're definitely going to have to come from the back of the field, and I'm unsure what they're going to be able to do because Urquizy and Belisane are on the front row. Yes, they are teammates, but yes, they also race each other incredibly hard. So, I mean, fair but hard. But my whole thing about that is that not only do they have to get through those two to get the lead, which will probably be the hardest, they also have to get through a field of AM drivers and other pro drivers who would very desperately like to beat them in a race this season. And I'm not saying that they would hold them up. I'm just saying that the closer you get to the front, the harder it is to pass. The likelihood of them making it to the very front of this field, it's not impossible. It's just an incredibly and extremely unlikely.
I don't know, man. I mean, Lebrecht has got the pace. Here's the thing, and Conway has honestly come through and just thrown down the gauntlet the past couple races as well. He has climbed his way up to P2 through the championship and done really well. I actually don't doubt that in a 90-minute race that Lebrecht and Conway will be able to spend the time to do it as long as they can get through cleanly. They don't get held up or caught up rather in a lap 1 lap 2 problem. I think that they're going to be fine.
I'm going to be a contrarian here because I like doing that sort of thing. So Alistair Gillies wins this championship by virtue of setting a qualifying lap, and of course, this championship would come down to something like that.
Yeah, but here's the thing also, H3 Racing exists. And as we can see, Urquizy and Belisane have thrown down the P1, P2 by about, what, 4/10 in qualifying? Do we think that that's going to play into that? I think it will, but it's just a question of how or Belisane rather has shown excellent strength in defending. Urquizy as well, maybe not quite as much as Belisane has, but Urquizy has really shown how strong he can be at defending. And if Lebrecq or Conway work their way up there, they could very well sit there and hold those guys off, and that will lose them the points. Being Conway and Lebrecq could lose them the points that they need to stay ahead or potentially surpass in Conway's point, surpass Lebrecq. I think that the men to beat here are going to be the Audis, and it's going to be interesting to watch that.
Yeah, it sure will. I think that we're gonna probably have to wait to the checkered flag falls here to actually see what's going to happen. I mean, this is going to be an incredible finish to a season that has just been suspenseful. It has caused us to scratch our heads on more than a couple of occasions. We've saw people win races based on them having a pit stop quicker than others. We've seen people fall out of contention in races for no obvious reason, only to find out that there was some sort of technical gremlin going on, that they were fighting the entire race. We have had people come from the middle pack of the field. We've had AM drivers. Let's not forget about the AMs here. The AMs are in the same boat as the pros. This is one of those rare instances where we have a pro championship that has 3 or 4 drivers that could win it, and we have an AM championship that has 3 or 4 drivers that can win it. And both the leader of pro leading the champ in the final week is starting near the rear. And in addition, the AM driver who is leading the championship is also in the middle or the back of his pack. It's absolutely incredible stuff here. So, we are glad that you are all with us here. Thank you for bearing with us. We have a few behind the scenes gremlins, as Mr. Mike Jones has said, but we are going to go racing after a short delay. The qualifying order, as it was read before the break, that is still valid. Just had to reset some things. And we will ask you guys, please bear with us, of course, with the name placards. We know that they are not correct, but we know who's in the classes and we know who's racing against each other. We will keep you updated and abreast of that every chance that we get. Is going to be a 90-minute race tonight. Will not be a 60-minute race like it normally is. The conclusion tonight, Al, well, the sun may go down, Mike Jones, but the action's going to hot up here in a minute.
Yeah, and this should be one of those races starting at 6 p.m. here in Japan at Suzuka. They have a very early sunrise and early sunset. 6 p.m. we should see that sun crest the horizon towards the end of the race, as we are now pushing up to grid time. As we can see, qualifying positions have indeed pushed over with us. Apologize about the name placards and Nick not being able to return to garage again, as ACC is just messing with us tonight. Apologize, guys, but that is a sad fact of the sad fact of online racing at times. So we will be off the screen for just a moment here. Jesse and I love to play RCI radio, however, so we
Yes, we do.
are totally comfortable with that. Currently, cars sitting on the grid 4 minutes 19 seconds until this formation lap. We're
Oh,
watching
man.
these guys do their final setup tweaks.
Mike.
The temperature has gone slightly hotter, though, Jesse.
Yeah, it has. Mike. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Ishmael Lebrecq and Harry Conway are 1 and 2 in this champ. They're sitting at the back of this grid. They see 20 plus cars in front of them. They know that right now, as they go green, Alistair Gillies is winning this championship. They know that. It's an undeniable fact.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is going through their heads right now, knowing that they're all the way back there? And what about the Wow? What about the Wow, Mike? He's in the same boat. He's in the middle of this pack, and he knows that he is right now losing this championship based on that qualifying performance. You have to keep your head in check, right? You have to keep your mind right and say, look, I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
no, I just gotta treat it like any other race. Go out there and make nice, safe
Mm-hmm.
passes. And like you said earlier, take solace. You got 30 more minutes tonight. which is either a blessing or a curse. If you had a bad qualifying, it's a blessing. But, if you are Belisane or Akizi, it's actually kind of a curse because that gives them 30 more minutes to catch you. But I can't wait to get going. Let's get going. Tell Nick to drop the green flag. Let's get going.
Well, Nick, I am going to request that from you. However, I do believe that he is still finding the flag. I believe Ryan Gill lost it somewhere in the back after
And I'm just as
yesterday's
mad at
Friday
you,
endurance race.
mad at him as you are.
Exactly. And here at the Night Owl, we love to make fun of our Mr. Ryan Gill. Don't take us wrong. Ryan Gill, one of our favorite people in RCI. However, it's all his fault for the Night Owl race today. 2.5 minutes until the formation lap will start. That puts us about 6 minutes from the drop of the green flag for 90 minutes. Was that enough minutes for you, Jesse? 90 minutes of Suzuka. Once again, we don't know. No clue what's going to happen at this point. Lebrec and Conway being at the back of the field, Delau being in, I believe, P7 for AM class is what it ended up. It's going to be insane. Our points leaders starting near the back of the pack. H3 Racing in a very dominating position, P1 and P2, and especially here at Suzuka, Jesse, this is one of those tracks. So we've had this discussion a little bit. Places like Hungaroring, where starting on the inside for T1 isn't necessarily the best thing because turn 2 is really where you're going to get the passes done. Here at Suzuka, it can really go either way. Going into curve 1 and curve 2 here at Suzuka, there's just no perfect line through there. You really want both sides of the track. So outside or inside can really happen here. If these H3 Racing Audis can get a good run off the corner and distance themselves just a touch from Gillies and Reisner, they are going to just be able to block anything that these guys can do at minimum until they get up to the hairpin. And that is a half a lap before anybody's going to be able to touch them. Now, if Gillies can get a good run off the start, like I believe, if I remember correctly, he got a really good run off the start last week. If he gets another good run off the start, Gillies could take off and do the same thing and get past these guys. But the real question is, what kind of start does Lebrec get? Because he's trapped in a bunch of AM classes. I don't know, man. 90 minutes of this, and we've got to sit here and play a guessing game on no clue who's going to win either of these championships.
The great thing is that we're not the only ones playing a guessing game. All these guys are playing guessing games. And if I was Lebrec and Conway, I probably am not going to get aggressive here on this start. I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably going to kind of fill it out, hang out for a lap, pick up the pieces, because there's undoubtedly, as there usually is, going to be some fallout. There's going to be some cars that maybe don't get up to speed or maybe get a little bit of a taparoo, and they're going to go around. And the last thing that you need fighting for a championship starting at the back here with your rivals at the front of the field is rush in there with a clouded judgment or a lot of haste and get in trouble, because there's no recovery if you have to go in and pit and get repairs. You're not going to come back from that.
Point of order, Jesse Lee. When have you ever seen Ismail Lebrec not send it?
That's a good point, but today is a day. Today is a day that he can't afford that. If he wants this champ bad enough, which I think he does because he's a competitor and he wears a helmet and drives a car with a number on it. So he's a competitor and he's going to want to get positions, but he has to keep calm and cool. Maybe when you start working in the top 10, which he inevitably will do at some point in this race, then maybe get a little aggressive with it. But on this start, it wouldn't surprise me if Rikizi and Belisane, because of their dynamic at H3 Racing, if they're side-by-side going up the S turns here. It would not surprise me because, again, they're friends, they're teammates, but they're also competitors. And we saw them take it to each other. They had to physically almost move each other at Hungaroring earlier in this champ, and they were racing head-to-head. But that's the thing. You're racing for a win. Belisane, as far as he knows, he's racing for the entire championship right now with Gillies. Exactly, because Gillies is right there. And again,
And
I don't know. Just make it around the first couple laps is all I would ask from my driver right now.
so as Jesse Lee manages to get a little bit of a potential plan for the pro split, Nick Setnick was just showing us Mia Swenson, and up next to her there is what's happened to Reisner? Did Reisner disconnect? Reisner just teleported to the pits. I believe Reisner just disconnected.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yep.
here's what I was going to say was Reiser and Swenson, even though they're P7 and P8 in AM class are only 1 point apart, starting right next to each other on the grid, she might have just got handed a position from Reisner.
Yeah, Reisner.
Hopefully he can reconnect, but
Reisner did not appear on the grid, Mike. Reisner was on the grid, and then he wasn't on the grid. So I think you're correct in that deduction that was a disconnect there.
Yeah, that's gonna be unfortunate for him. I mean, he's had it. I mean, like I said, the P1 through P6 in AM class are all really close. There's a bit of a dip down to Reisner and Swenson, about 30 points down, but they are 1 point away from each other and only 3 points ahead of the next position down in P9. That was going to be a heck of a battle too. It's not even the top of these splits that are going to be the battle. We're going to see the mid pack of these splits be a battle as well, and there's just battles happening everywhere as we're now coming out through 130R, stacking up 2x2, ready to go green here momentarily. 6:08 p.m. at Suzuka in Japan here this evening. 27 degrees on track, just a touch warmer than it was in qualifying, Jesse, and we are watching these guys come down. Here's the final chicane. The Audi's stacking up side by side there, and this is deep breath time. That's Urquizy, that's Bellasane, that's Gillies, Blanton, Swenson, and Yilmaz. Reisner, of course, got teleported back to pits, hopefully able to reconnect. But as we approach the green flag, Urquizy is going to lead them down the field, down to first curve in the 404 Audi H3 Racing finale. 90 minutes of Suzuka, still waiting for the lights, have almost approached the line, and we are going to go green here in about 3, 2, 1. There's the lights. There's Urquizy taking off. Bellasane there on the inside. These guys just kind of all over the place. Gilly's looking to the inside a bit there, but there's Blanton going deep into turn one. He is on the outside of Bellasane there. Urquizy took off in that 404. He is cleared. Blanton not able to quite get the move done. Now side by side with Gillies as they cross through Snake, and that is one of the Porsches. I believe that's Yilmaz looking up the inside of him there as well. Yilmaz all over the back of Gillies. Swenson behind them as well. The Audis have made just a little bit of a break. Blanton was not able to make it, and there it is. Urquizy already gapping just a touch there. This is exactly the start they needed, Jesse.
Yeah, and Reisner is back out on track. I can confirm that. He had to wait for the field to come back around. I have some sort of starting order issue there for Reisner, but he is out on track. He's entering the S's right now. Yeah, he is about 4 or 5 turns behind this group, but that's okay. He's back in the race. 90 minutes to go here. Everything to play for. Alistair Gillies, though, on the other hand, he immediately got jumped by Cody Blanton for third place. Back and forth is Alistair Gillies, who's now being fought by Yilmaz, the AM leader. Of course, we apologize for the number placards not displaying correctly, but Yilmaz is the top AM driver right now, and he is threatening to take 4th place away. Very clean start. I don't think there were any major incidences going on, but already Lebrec up to 17th place. No real progress for Harry Conway. Conway all the way back in 22nd place, but Lebrec, who was in 22nd at the start of this race, has made it up to at least 17th on that last sector. He is flying up through this field. He actually just gained another position in that sector, 16th place for Lebrec, as Alistair Gillies continues to get hounded by Yilmaz. Yilmaz desperately wants to get around him. Gillies cannot afford that. Gillies is trying to win this championship right now, and as it stands, as they run, Alistair Gillies would be your championship winner here after 1 lap completed, Mike.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it doesn't matter, for Yimaz if Gillies wants to win the championship because Yimaz also wants to win the championship. He's also
Exactly.
in P2. He's only 6 points behind Patrick Delau. Delau back in 14th position overall. I believe that should be about 5th or 6th in AM. He made up a position, I believe, in front of Jelinek for that. Oh, Jelinek, sorry, another pro driver as well. But we're currently looking through the windshield. The Yimaz here up in front of him is Gillies. He's got positions to make as well. He's got Swenson about a second back at this point, but still breathing down his neck a bit. And, if Swenson can get up here, get in front of Yimaz, and he just starts shaving positions down, that's going to cost him. So,
Oh,
a little loose there. Just cresting that curb. And that is the downside of this Porsche here at Suzuka. You can really catch these curves, especially coming through Dunlop or the final chicane, and it will just throw that thing. Good hold on him, though. The difference here is that Merc of Swenson just sucked right up to him. That Mercedes, the Aston Martin, the Lexus, those cars can just eat curbs for breakfast. Currently, here is Patrick Delau, P1 in our AM class points lead, and has not been able to make up too much yet. He's got a lot of ground to make up. As Jesse Lee, I am hearing tell, I'm going to have to check on this, that Conway had a little bit of issue on lap 1, potentially by himself, so he is lost down. He's currently in 24th position, just ahead of Reisner.
yeah, that's absolutely true, Mike. Conway had a problem going into the chicane here, and here's Lebrecht trying to get 13th place away. Can he do it? I think he might just be able to. No, that's actually Delau for 14th place. This is the coming into today. Delau was your championship leader. So we got championship leader in both categories side by side right now. Lebrecht gets through into the chicane. No harm, no foul. And Lebrecht continues his march to the front. Meanwhile, Delau stuck in about 15th place now. He is allowing the faster traffic to go through at this time, but as it stands, still Gillies is winning in Pro and Yilmaz is winning in AM, and this could not have been a more turbulent topsy-turvy start if you would have tried. Lebrecht up to 14th, started 22nd or 23rd, we're not really sure which, but regardless, up to 14th place. Now he'll set his sights on Lehman. And what of Mathis here? Mathis getting hounded by Silva behind him. Another one of those H3 guys, though he's racing for a different team, I believe, this particular championship. But yes, Mathis struggling just a bit, taking all of the curb and more coming through there and now going down into the hairpin. And he is still being hounded by Silva. Silva seems to have just a little bit more pace, but what about Sebastian Brunier here? Brunier started about 11th. He's up to 9th so far. Excellent start for the the French driver, I should say. His teammate's British, so I do apologize. But Sebastian Brunier for the Open Visor Racing Club doing an excellent start here. This is sort of what he wanted. He figured he could finish in the top 10 thereabouts, maybe even a top 5. It's been an up and down season for him, but a good race here in the 90-minute finale, Mike, make all that feel worth it.
It can, and here's the thing. I think Brunier, he's just done very consistent work through this championship. I was talking to somebody about this earlier. It was Ryan Gill. I was talking to him this morning. We were talking about Brunier and his finishes in the Night Owl. He's kind of hovered around that P10 position and just started chipping away at positions as people make mistakes. He gets up to P9, he gets up to P8, he gets up to P7 as people make mistakes. Brunier just a very consistent driver for that Open Visor Racing Club Aston Martin. That is his traditional team, of course, driving for Flip Mode Racing Club in this particular championship. Unfortunately, his teammate has not been able to make it for this. But Carl Mathis, by the way, Jesse Lee, paired up with Alistair Gillies for this championship, in fact, for the Secretly GS Racing team. So
they're not so secret if they put it in the name, though.
As it turns out, they were really not very secret at it. I may have given them that name, in fact, so it was a secret to them until I told them about it anyway. But we are back watching Yimaz here, who is fallen off of Gillies just a bit. The pro driver driving away a bit. However, Swenson still on his tail, about a second and a half back on average. I think this is really just going to be a tale of 83 minutes of who makes the mistake. I'm going to be honest. My money is on Swenson making a mistake for Yilmaz. I think Yilmaz really knows that he needs to drive this race safe. He's got Delau pretty far behind him. He needs to feel comfortable at the moment, and I think Swenson knows that she needs to get past Yilmaz and get that P1 points. So I think that she's going to be the one pushing. But every time we try to make positions or suggestions, predictions, that's the word I'm looking for. English is hard today, boys. Every time we try to make positions, wow, I'm at it again. Every time we try to make predictions, it just does not work. But we're currently seeing Lebrecht making some moves here. Again, that is some contact with Matt Lehman there. That is not too happy between those two. Not sure if that was a little bit of Lehman lagging there a little bit as his ping is just a touch high, or if he just kind of drifted sideways a bit, but he just shoves Lebrecht back behind him. Lehman, another one of those drivers that has just made up a ton of points overall. Him and Simon Hopkins doing their absolute darndest to make sure they win the team championship in AM, because they are handedly ahead in that lacking liveries racing. But Ismail, again, not very surprising to me. I knew he was going to just bounce up. I know Jesse Lee had other ideas, but 14th position overall. Currently is held there for a couple laps, though, and has not made any sort of time on men such as this one right here, Mr. Silva, with a 999 Porsche up in 8th place with Brunier behind. Ismail's got a long way to go, but hey, he's got a long time to do it.
Yeah, what I am impressed about is that Alistair Gillies in 4th place. It looked like he was under attack from Yilmaz for those opening couple of laps, but he's been able to open up that gap quite significantly, so that's no longer a problem, and it has become a problem for him behind, though, as like you said earlier, Mia Swenson is right on Yilmaz's tail right now. But this is what I was talking about, though. Oh, there's a spin in front. Who is that?
That's Yilmaz. There's the mistake right there. I just said it. He needed to stay consistent, and there it is right here. We're going to see a little bit of a replay. Did he get just caught on the curb of the hairpin?
No, he
here?
didn't. No, he didn't. You were right.
Okay, so it was Swenson's mistake. There it was.
You were right, Mike.
Unfortunately, though, costing Yilmaz more than it's going to cost Swenson.
Yeah, and what that's going to do with that amount of people going by, that is going to put Delau right back into the driver's seat in this championship advantage. Delau back on the top spot of the cup right now as live points continue to cycle through. Yilmaz in 4th place drops all the way back to 16th place and now has rear diffuser damage as a certainty. That is not what you wanted, and that was not a good moment for Mia Swenson there, who just overcooked it into the corner and turned the championship leader around.
Yeah, well, not championship leader, P2. We can't call him the championship leader yet.
Well, he was live in the points.
Provisional, he would have been P1, correct. However, I don't know. It didn't look like it was that hard of a tap, and Yilmaz did do really well making sure he stayed out of traffic. I'm hoping for his sake that he did not get too much damage for that. This is one of those tracks, though, that you will suffer if you get damaged, because this track it's got a couple long straights. You got the start-finish straight. You got 130R, and you've got like this snake right here, the snake, the Dunlop curves. There's so much different aspects of this track that aero damage can really cost you. He's in a Porsche, and he bounces over a curb at a wrong spot because he's got a little too much understeer or oversteer, as you do. And this is Lehman and Lebrecht going at it behind Dino
Lebrecht
again.
Finally trying to get around Lehman and does. Has to force his way through, though.
He did, and that's now up to P12 overall. The standings haven't quite updated yet, as of course Yilmaz has fallen down behind. And I just noticed, however, Jesse Lee, that Yilmaz does seem to be off the grid. I believe he is in for his pit stop, perhaps. No, he's in P16. I can. Oh man, it's been a week. Jesse Lee, you are carrying this stream for me today.
No, you're fine, man. Listen, it has been a long week for Mr. Mike Jones and RCI getting everything set up for our upcoming series and our big races. We hope that you will join us for those. And why not leave a like and a subscribe and a big drift as we can go back to Lebrecht there for a second. Lebrecht was absolutely drifting off the corner there. I think he saw what was happening in front of him and just overcooked it a bit, I'm pretty sure. We're going to see a replay. Are my eyes failing, or did he go into a full Tokyo drift here? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Look at that drift back onto the racetrack. I don't know if he was distracted because there was something going on in front of him in the chicane. Either that or maybe he just overcooked that Lambo. But either way, big old drift. That does not help the tires.
It does not, but that is a heck of a save for the Lambo. And you know what? Here's the thing. As this race is a 90-minute race, we are having our mandatory pit stop adjustment to also require tires. So he will be able to grab some new tires if need be at some point whenever he makes his pit stop. So if he's feeling those flat spots at some point, he can go ahead, make that pit stop for the tires. Wanted to make sure that the cars, even with this 90-minute window, don't get any advantage. Some of the cars do get an advantage over the longer stints, like the Bentley, for example, might not even have to take any fuel, really, whereas the rest of these guys do. So we are forcing pit stops here for this 90-minute race. But Lebrecht, I don't think he's going to do it. We've seen every single race him do that massive overcut all over the back of Lehman there. So though, as he goes into the hairpin, looks like he had to overbrake it even because he was still just a bit faster. And it doesn't surprise me. Lebrecht is probably faster than most people in this field, but still struggling to get through this last bit of traffic.
And now he's got to get by Lehman again. He's got to get by Lehman all over again. It took him 3 laps before.
He struggled.
Oh man, now he's cooked his tires a little bit, and now he's got to get by Lehman, and he's got it doesn't get any better. He's got Narajak, Nell, Winkler, Silva, Brunier, who's up to 7th, by the way. It's like, oh my goodness.
That's going to be the struggle right there. I want to watch him get past Brunier as he goes to the inside of Lehman here through the chicane.
Same place last time.
It just boom, and there is Narajak off the track as well, overshoots the chicane. I think he might get a warning for that for track limit.
Did.
Yeah, that was bad.
Narajak, forgetting he's not in a motorcycle, took the motorcycle chicane there. But yeah, that'll certainly be a in-game penalty for that. There's been a massive crash up in sort of Spoon, I think, and a couple cars are actually stopped up there. Now they get moving and the yellow flag removed, but a massive incident. Well, the reason I bring that up is because there were only 2 cars over there. The rest of the
Conway and P1 just now as well. I just want to point out, sorry, I was catching this on my camera. Conway and Fox just got into it in P1 as well. Conway trying to make his way up to the field and struggling, getting into lap traffic.
This is not what Conway was hoping for his championship challenge here today. He has clearly had the harder go of it. Lebrecht, who has been able to slice, dice, and make moves. Conway just sort of getting passed around a little bit. Don't see a lot of damage on that car, despite the fact that I get several reports that he's been involved in little incidents. That car looks clean to me. What does it look like to you, Mike?
Yeah, so his first incident on lap 1 was a self-spin incident coming out of the chicane, just got a little loose and spun. He just bumped Fox on the back. I didn't catch the entire thing, but he bumped Fox on the back coming into curve 1 on this particular lap. I don't think it was too much of a hit, but, just a little bit there. We're actually seeing the blue Audi off. I believe that's the Audi of Gill. Oh, no, that's Robles. Sorry, in front, that's the 122 Audi. Must have spun it in the chicane as well. So that is a couple people, the hairpin have spun it in the hairpin. These guys struggling a little bit today, even though we've got, reasonably optimal track temperatures here. 26C, it's not too hot, not too cold, optimum grip, no wind. But a couple of these guys just struggling for grip. And Conway, though, that should work out for him as he needs to make up as many positions as possible. Even though he did have that spin on lap 1, he is showing good pace, and that's what he needs to do at the moment. He's got plenty of time, extra 30 minutes for this race, right? He's going to be able to take tires. It's an Audi. Being able to slap some tires onto that Audi is not the worst thing in the world as he hops over the front of that chicane curb. There's the downside of that Audi.
Yeah. To Harry Conway's credit, if that would have been me, I wouldn't have saved that. I wouldn't have been able to. I love that Audi. It was one of my first. It was my main car whenever ACC first came out. I love that car. I love driving that car. It just feels right. But I never was able to master that. It looks like Robles is going to go off again a little bit. That's going to promote Harry Conway. Conway up into 17th position now. Count it, as he is not out of this yet. Lebrecht, of course, a lap ago, did get around Lehman for 12th place. He is right behind Nerjak right now, and not to be outdone, and not to forget our leader of the race, Urquizy, who sat on pole this race, has a nearly 4-second gap on his teammate, Belisane, in the early going here. I say early going, but we've been going about
there's Lebrecht
minutes.
diving on a Nerjak there. A little bit of contact going into the hairpin as well. Lebrecht is taking no prisoners.
Don't damage that car, Ishmael. Don't do that.
He broke ever so slightly wide. Nerjak did it. Ismail Lebrecht said, "Ooh, that looks like half of a Lambo size hole. Let's make that a little bigger and go for it." And Lebrecht just shoves it in there. And there's the Porsche off. I believe that's the Porsche of is that the Porsche of Mathis, I believe. And Mathis and somebody else. If we can jump over there, maybe catch a replay of that, Nick. That's Mathis.
Bernier. That's Bernier. Bernier is going for the pass on Mathis here. They get into sprint. Oh, it's going to be a touch. Oh, and I see why he's major damage to Mathis. And of course, Bernier being class act, he spun him, but the reason he was stopped is because he was waiting for him, because he, professional courtesy here, felt really bad about that. But that is unfortunate, because that has ruined both of their races, Mathis and Bernier. Bernier, of course, didn't really sustain any damage from that. But again, gentleman driver, the Frenchman decides to wait. And heavy contact. Probably the hardest hit of the season we've seen.
I would say so. Mathis is going to have to come in a pit, and there's Lebrecht. I think he may have let Nerjak by. Maybe he decided that pass to the hairpin was not quite as safe as he thought. Maybe, though, he made the mistake. We, of course, did not catch it while we were watching Bernier and Mathis. But, yeah, that is a hit. Luckily, he's within the pit window at this point, that if he tops off on fuel, he can make this his full mandatory pit stop. It's going to cost him in repairs and, of course, time on track. But, it won't put him completely out of the race, in fact. And, we can see, looking at Conway, for example, who spun on lap 1, lost quite a bit of time. He's been able to make his way up. Mathis has had a reasonably strong showing in this championship with his speed. I don't think he's going to be fighting for a podium this race, but Mathis hopefully can make up a couple positions after that. And, of course, as you said, Bernier just being the gentleman driver, letting him by. But there he goes again. Nerjak going a little wide in the hairpin, and Ismail just poking his nose in there. He is ready for it. He doesn't have the run here, though, looking into Spoon. I think looking at this, he's not going to be able to make the move unless Nerjak goes wide again. But you can tell Lebrecht is making this man nervous. He's going for the move anyway. Dips to the inside. Not able to get it done.
Big wiggle.
There it is. Wiggles over the curve, and Ismail right on that apron. Gonna race down 130R here. This is the back straight, approaching 130R. Lebrecht, though, in that lamp,
got him.
Gonna have that grunt coming out of the corner, and he is just gonna get that move done. Hopefully able to make it stick this time. And Ismail Lebrecht, by the way, with the problem with Mathis, Jesse Lee, I believe, is now in the top 10.
Yes, he is indeed. Meanwhile, up sort of closer to the front, Cody Blanton, who has been sort of on his own island in third place for a long time, he was able to get by Alistair Gillies at the start of this race. You'll notice that Alistair Gillies now has closed that gap back up. Gillies right behind Blanton. They were actually nose to tail, bumper to bumper a few turns ago. So this gap is actually twice as big as it was. And by the way, do not think for 1 second that this race is over. Currently, as they run, the gap continues to get smaller and smaller. I think Gillies right now would just about still be your championship winner. But if Lebrecht gets up to right about where Winkler is, I think that flips, and I think Lebrecht would have enough points at that point to win this championship. It's exciting, isn't it? We've only done, what do you reckon, 22 minutes there about, but it has been fantastic to watch so far. This is the season finale of the Night Owl Championship. Mike, it took us, what do you reckon, 6 to 8 months longer than we had expected to get to the end of a Night Owl Champ, but we're here.
We are here, and I am doing some Jesse Lee moves at the moment, by the way.
You have a calculator?
No, but I'm running some maths.
Oh dear.
Taking a look at the point standings here. I am looking at Lebrecq. If Gillies finishes in third, there's no way for Lebrecq to lose the championship to him. I'm back down to P17. He's not able to do it. If Lebrecq finishes in 8th, Gillies in first, that still puts Lebrecq 6 points ahead of him. So Lebrecq is going to have a massive incident. Gillies is going to have to make a position or two for this to happen for him. Now that said, Harry Conway is a heck of a lot closer. He's 16 points closer to Lebrecq than Gillies is, and if Conway can make the positions, he might have a better chance here. But yeah, unfortunately, running the math, that is not quite going to work out in Gillies' favor for the moment, as Lebrecq is just 8
So-
up the field.
So Lebrecq in the top 10 in 9th place is confirmed to be your championship leader as they run. And what of Harry Conway back in 15th place? Lebrecq cannot let up, but Lebrecq needs to continue his peaceful march to the front of this field, because if he doesn't continue his march to the field, Harry Conway will. And if Conway can get in amongst them, as we say in the American South, you never know what could happen in the final hour in 6 minutes. Here's Alistair Gillies looking at the back of that V12 Aston of Cody Blanton, who I was pleased to know when I first signed on to do this series, when I was looking over the documentation, that Cody Blanton was an American driver. I actually did not know that previously, but here is
Lebreq's
Alistair.
Canadian as well, by the way.
What's that?
Lebrecq is Canadian as well, by the way. He's one
Yeah.
of our other North American drivers.
He told me that a while back, and I was actually really impressed, because Canadian French is the only French I know, believe it or not. So I don't I go to France, and people don't know what I'm saying because the French is different.
But you can go to Quebec, and you're good to go.
Everybody likes Quebec. Anyway, moving right along from that terrible pun, we do have races side by side as Nell and who's that? Is that Lebrecq? Yeah, that is Lebrecq. Lebrecq making that. Yeah, of course it's Lebrecq. Why do I ever doubt that it's not Lebrecq? Nell giving up that position kind of felt like he just sort of let Lebrecq go there, did Nell. Didn't want to get into an altercation. Of course, why would you, Nell? He's running up inside the top 10. He's got his race. I like a red Aston. I never saw one before, but I like it.
I like that shade of red too. Usually when you go red, you're almost going a pink or a very metallic red. I'm a huge fan of metallic and chrome colors myself, but I like that on that V12. It makes it really just, well, pop, to be honest. It just pops out everywhere. And Nell, of course, I mean, he's done pretty well for himself in the championship overall, even though he's struggled a little bit in that V12. He's staying ahead of some of the other drivers. He's, only what is it, about 30 points back from positioning out into like Bernier's position, about P8. Of course, Cody Blanton here in this V12 has just done a smashing job staying consistent. He's on 5th overall in the points, and if he can stay ahead of these guys here, he's going to move up a position or two potentially as well. Gillies is 19 points ahead of him, but Bellasane is only 2 points ahead of him, and if Cody Blanton can keep it consistent, if Bellasane makes a mistake, that's going to be another position here that he will be able to pull off. Oh, sorry, it's Urquizy and Blanton. No, it is Bellasane, right? He's currently ahead of Urquizy and behind Blanton. So those two drivers here, but Gillies is all over the back of him right now, and that could cost him the time that he might need to try and catch up to Bellasane, as these guys are going to continue fighting. But we're going to see how this kind of rounds out here. Coming through one.
Mia Swinson. Look at Mia Swinson creeping into the back of that shot for 3rd place.
She did. She made up that position. She's currently 1st place overall in AM class since we had that incident with Yimaz. But here is your leader, Hamada Urquizy for H3 Racing. That's Bellasane in the back and coming around curve 1, curve 2. And he's going to approach the snake here. So far, running his best lap at 2:05. Fastest lap by almost 4/10 in this race. In fact, his teammate throwing down the only other 2-minute lap in the field so far. But as he's coming through Snake and approaching the Dunlop curve right now, this man has almost a 5-second gap, Jesse Lee. Almost 1 hour and 3 minutes remaining as of right now in this race. Coming through the Dagners, looking very strong for a finish.
Yeah, indeed. You know what we haven't had yet because we haven't had time to take a breath? I think it's time for a little RCI crank it up today. Let's just go on board for a minute and just listen to that car for a little bit. What do you say?
Let's do it. Again, on board with Urquizy, your race leader, currently making his way through 130R, hard braking into the final chicane here. 404 Audi for H3 Racing, currently dominating the field. Looking like Jesse, he is picking up almost a few tenths on his teammate again this lap,
Yep.
who has subsequently picked up a few tenths on Blanton. And I actually noticed, just to continue the train, Blanton has picked up a few tenths on Gillies as well. So
Yep.
these guys just kind of straightening themselves out a little bit, unless your name is Ismail Lebrec, of course, who is only now 1/10 behind his next target, Mr. Marco Winkler. 32 Audi for Team Oversteer will be the next victim here pretty soon.
Next
Ismail Lebrec,
victim.
if I had to take a guess. Victim. That's what we're going with today.
Oh
Ismail
my
is
gosh. Ishmael
un-
Lebrec, according to Mike Jones, is out here mugging people for positions, and that's how he sees it. But right you are, it won't be long before Ishmael Lebrec decides to try and make the pass on Winkler at some point. But I'm just going to go back to that onboard cam we had with Urquizy for a second there. Do you know what I noticed the most? What my biggest takeaway from that was?
Tell me, Jesse.
Just how smooth Urquizy was. Super smooth on the gas, on the brake, turning. That car must be driving really, I mean, obviously it's driving well. He's leading the race, but it is driving incredibly well for him. No sweat, no pressure, no nothing in the cockpit, no dramas for the driver of the 404 Audi. This is the splitter cam of Ishmael Lebrec. This excellent camera here that Nick Setnick is bringing us right here. This shows you just what the splitter looks like if you mount a camera on it. It's absolutely incredible. The speeds of these things, whenever they get cooking down the straightaway, it doesn't look as dramatic from some of the other camera angles. But what I take away most about this camera is just how close these drivers like Lebrec will get to the back of another car without touching them. We're talking about pinpoint precision. Actually, Winkler was able to gap the Lamborghini there on that that straightaway there, but now closes right back
Here
up.
It's
like the Lamborghini is better turning, but oh look, he may have the slipstream he needs. Winkler not giving up this position necessarily. Is he going to let him by? He's not. He isn't moving over to block too much. Lebrec doesn't push the issue through 130R. And then they stay nose to tail, but he's going to try to go for it down here into the chicane. Winkler doesn't give up. Winkler does give up the position. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
I don't think Winkler saw him initially, but whenever he saw the 67's intent, decided, I'm not going to turn in.
Yeah, I mean, Winkler, of course, is racing for the AM class. I think he realized that, it was Lebrec behind him. I think that Winkler was going to be holding there for a few minutes because he's good in that Audi. Winkler is, in fact, one of my teammates for our endurance races. Just got out of a race with him for our pre-qualifying for Bathurst just a couple hours ago. In fact, Winkler really likes that Audi, and he's really strong in it. He's doing a really strong showing here at Suzuka, currently in P2 overall in AM class, in fact. For that, sorry, that's a P3, isn't it? See, it's hard without these. No, Silva's in a pro class. That's P2. So that's Swenson in P1, Winkler in P2 for the AM class. So Delau has actually made up quite a bit of positions there, Jesse Lee. But the man who has not quite made up a position in another Porsche, in fact, Gillies, though, he's looking on the inside here. Bland got a little loose coming out of that hairpin. However, he gets the power down, and look at him just take off. He got a little loose coming out and still got the grip out of that corner and just shot that thing down to Spoon. Gillies just, I think that's what he's struggling with at the moment. I think that the Blanton's just running a really low downforce setup, and he's just running away from him coming out of a corner. And that's going to make it difficult to pass around here at Suzuka, especially at the back straight here and in through 130R. Unless he just gets a heck of a run coming out of one of the corners here, he's going to struggle. And in fact, has. This has been about 20 minutes worth of fighting here, and it ain't shaping up to finish anytime soon.
I've actually have an apology from something I said earlier. I thought that Mia Swinson was the car in the background here. That's actually Mathis in the 5, not Swinson in the 6. My eyeballs are a bit broken, but yeah, that's actually Mathis in the 5 car who has done his pit stop already. I misunderstood that 5 is a 6 at a distance, but either way.
That's Swinson there in the background now, though.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now that's Swinson in the background, but that's not the car I saw.
Yeah. A little too green for that one.
Little too green. Marco Winkler, though, still, he may get past here by Silva. Nothing doing that time by. As you see Lebrecht, though, setting sail out front. Lebrecht up to 6th place. He will have to catch that group that we were picturing a moment ago, and this will be the longest he goes without having to pass a car for position. He has about 2 or 3 turns gap right now between him and Mia Swinson, who is leading the AM class. Delau in 11th place. That is good enough because of the issues with Yilmaz. That is good enough for the championship in AM right now. Delau, your championship leader. Lebrecht, your championship leader. Order has been restored for the moment. And here we have Sebastian Brunier, who was involved in an earlier little mishap. He's back down into 12th. He was as high as 7th at one point. Decided to give a bunch of positions back after touching another car, causing them to go off. And that's reset his progress. But he's very much back into the fight here as he's thinking about looking on Delau. What's that?
I just realized that's Harry Conway behind him.
That is Harry Conway behind him. And they're all trying to get around Delau here. But we're going to see if Mr. Brunier gets held up here. That might allow Conway to slingshot them both. But based on how methodical Conway's been so far, I would doubt that he's going to make a hasty maneuver like that. And might I just say, why we talk about liveries a lot, right? I like that that livery on that Conway car. It reminds me of Darren King's livery on his Ferrari.
We've talked about this every week, in fact, I think, at this point, Jesse. I love Conway's livery. Yeah, because we both love, but we have the same taste in liveries. Like, what can we say?
We do.
We really do. As Conway's looking a little bit to the inside here, knows better, however, to pass somebody in 130R. This is like, that's Marco Winkler. Marco Winkler goes off in 130R. He must have gotten caught on a little bit of an apron. We're going to catch a replay.
Yeah, he does.
Same thing.
He's going
we
back
saw
into
earlier.
The wall. Yep.
He touches the wall. Doesn't look like that should be too much damage, but there it is right there. That is that Audi. You can't touch the curb.
Well,
you can't, especially there.
Well, you can, but you're going to go for one if you do. That was an incredible spin. Massive damage to the back of the 32 car of Marco Winkler. And
such a good run for him.
Yeah, well, it's not over for him. That will be a long pit stop, but he can come in and get his mandatory stop out of the way, get that repaired. It'll be about, anywhere between 10 to 45 seconds, depending on how bad that damage actually is.
So keep in mind, at least 30 seconds for the tire change.
At least 30 seconds for the tire change, indeed. And of course, this race different than some of the other ones that you must take tires at some point in this race for your mandatory pit stop to be cleared. But of course, he has bigger problems in the terms of damage to that car. That is unfortunate for him. Winkler having a fantastic race all up inside the top 10. And that's going to promote Brunier, who's in front here, into 10th place. Again, Harry Conway up to 11th. And of course, both those guys did get around Delau during that incident. So go ahead and promote those two drivers, the 777 and the 28. Conway one spot out of the top 10. And I would suspect it's only a matter of time before Conway gets around Brunier and sets his sight on the number 10.
I would not be surprised as well. I do want to point out that, of course, Marco Winkler is driving for the AM class, so these guys did get promoted for an overall, but not for a class position. Marco Winkler just timed out his pit stop, by the way, 35 seconds of damage. He had a 1 minute 5-second pit stop. 30 seconds of that will be tires and fuel. 35 seconds of that will be repairs. That is 35 seconds of damage lost, including the time lost on track, is going to put him probably down roughly about 90 seconds from where he was at. That should drop him pretty far down the field, as Conway now coming into for his mandatory pit stop. Jesse, we are approaching that halfway mark. Surprisingly, as we're currently watching Dual Nell here for the V12 following Silva, surprisingly, Jesse, this is the conversation we seem to have every week, and one that we have not had today, as we've been busy talking about Lebrec, who, by the way, is coming into the pits as well. Him and Conway must be cavorting, something together, as they've always had the overcuts here, and now we're seeing them pit halfway through the race. How do you think the pit strategy works out here? You're required to take tires. Do you think we're going to see most of these guys come in within the next 10 minutes to come in and take tires at the halfway?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only strategy. When you are required to take a pit stop, I mean, that's the most simple strategy. Just come in at halfway. Make sure that you have equal parts. I mean, there'll be some cars, as we've seen throughout this entire season, that are better on tires than others. But there's no reason to push it. Come in at halfway, get your pit stop done. There will be some guys out here that will wait until later. They want fresher tires at the end of the race, so they'll wait an extra, I reckon, about 15, 20 minutes, Mike, and come in. But at that point, you're pushing your tires. But the vast majority of people will likely be in the next 10 to 12 minutes, I would say. And I probably wouldn't have came in this early. I would have probably waited till 45 to go before I came in, just to have a little insurance. But a lot of guys coming in, you know, Lebrec, Conway, Mathis, Winkler, Yilmaz have all pitted, and they're at the back half of the field right now. But I don't think Urquizy comes in now, by the way. I think Urquizy's one of the last on pit road.
Oh, no, yeah, I think so as well. Urquizy's still running. He ran a bad lap last lap, in fact. He ran a 2:02.2. However, his teammate, my thing scroll down here. Urquizy ran a 2:05.2 last lap. He made a mistake at some point, lost almost 3 seconds to
that's a big mistake.
But there goes DeLau into the pits, your AM points leader, diving into the pit lane at roughly this halfway mark, about 5.5 minutes now until the halfway mark. And okay, we're back again. Here's Blanton. He's in front of Gillies still. We've talked about this for 35 minutes. This is just going to... maybe it's not going to keep happening. Blanton goes wide coming out of the Degner. There's Gillies on the inside. Blanton, no, he is not going to try it and save for the hairpin. He lets him by. Gillies runs wide, though. There is Blanton. There is a double run wide. Blanton runs wide, then Gillies runs wide, and there's the thing. This time by, Gillies gets the grip coming out of the corner and launches that thing.
That V12.
There is that V12 digging in deep. Is he able to get it into Spoon? No, he's not. Not this time by Alistair Gillies. 30 minutes later, Nick Setnick just knew that was coming, making sure he switched that camera back just in time to catch that. 30 minutes of battling finally resolves itself with Gillies out in that podium position now for P3. It ain't over yet, folks, but Gillies has finally got the move done. How long does it take Blanton to put the pressure back on him? If Gillies keeps going like that, though, we just saw a couple people spin on that particular curve. He needs to be careful. I think at this point, the thing is, maybe he gets nervous with Blanton behind him. He's been throwing down some consistency with Blanton in front, knowing that he's got him in front, but little mistake. Blanton's going to slide on back by. But Gillies finally up into that podium spot, and in fact up into the provisional P2 is Jesse proving us all wrong with Urquizy into the pit lane.
I'm pretty sure Urquizy exists merely to
DeLau's
disagree.
still in the pit. What's going on with DeLau?
DeLau, you are absolutely correct. DeLau has been sitting in pit road. This is not a pit stop at this point. He's not there. I think it's obvious. He is not there.
No, wait. He's still out on track. I just went back to my game really quick. He is out on track. Nick Setnick, would you mind changing to DeLau for me, please? I want to make sure that my game isn't lying to me. He's currently approaching Spoon on my window. Yeah, so that must be another Porsche. I don't think there's another Porsche that looks like Delau. I wonder if that's a little bit of a
Oh,
game
is
bug.
that
Oh,
the
that's
100
Best.
car? That's
It's
the 100
Best.
of Best, yeah.
Yep. Okay. The exact same livery on these guys. I was like, oh my god, what's
Okay.
happened to Delau?
Yeah, yep.
Never mind.
So Bess has been
Panic averted.
Bess has been in pit road since about lap 3. Bess was
Yeah.
involved in an incident with another car and subsequently parked himself. So he's been sitting in pit road this entire time. But because it looked like Delau, we nearly had
Minor
a heart
panic.
attack. Yep.
However, speaking of minor panic, Sebastian Brunier, with his level head, should not have any panic, even though he's got Robles breathing down his neck. Robles, of course, only a couple points back from him in the point standings. In fact, not even a couple. It is Jesse Lee 1 point behind him. So Brunier is fighting for his life with this battle, has made it back up to the provisional P8 after the pit stops. But he should know at this point. Ooh, Robles!
Oh!
Whoa!
That was,
okay.
oh, God.
Okay.
Oh,
Gee, dude.
tell them to stop doing that.
Deep breath. We're okay.
Okay.
Robles and Brunier.
Okay. I am,
We're good.
I may have jumped out of my seat there a little bit.
I'm gonna take a drink of water.
That was
I'm
an
gonna have a breath.
That was an optical illusion there. Robles is completely fine. He did appear to dart off into the barrier. That did not happen. So the 777 and the 7 continue to be 8th and 9th right now. That's actually not the 7. That's the 122 behind him. Yep, that is Yilmaz.
Oh, that is Yilmaz behind. Yeah, that is not Robles. Okay. Well,
we're losing our minds.
Yeah, we're losing our minds. We really are. We're losing our minds today. Night Owl has thrown us for a loop every single race, and we're not expecting any less out of this as Brunier went ahead and dove into the pit lane for his mandatory stop here at roughly the halfway mark. 90 seconds to go until we hit that halfway. Something I'd like to point out is I did notice Narrett Jack was in fact pretty close to them as well. He is only a couple points behind Mia Swenson in the points as we're back to David Gill here, and that is Reisner behind him, who has done pretty well along with Conway to make up those positions. Of course, Reisner having the early technical difficulties and starting from the pit lane. He's doing pretty well. 8th place overall. I believe, Jesse Lee, if I'm doing my math right, that should shake him out to about P13, 14 after he makes his pit stop. So doing really well to make up these positions, and he's all over the back of Gill there. He wants more. He's got the pace to get on up there and keep pushing, and he just needs to get by here. Reisner, 7th place overall in the points. Pretty, he's reasonably far back, but he's fighting Swenson tooth and nail for that position there. It is. He goes a little bit wide. That Aston is saving him. If he was in pretty much any other car, he probably would have been thrown right there, but that Aston will just eat curbs like nobody's business. So he's all over the back of Gill here. He needs to make up this position. Only 1 point separates him and Swenson. Of course, Swenson is in that overall, after the pit stop shakeout, P1 for AM class. Currently a few points back as she has made her pit stop. But there is just, everywhere we look, it doesn't matter what battle we're looking at, somebody needs a position for points. Halfway mark.
All right, halfway point in the race. Thank you all for being with us for the Night Owl finale at RCI on RCI TV. Would like to thank you guys for being here. Like to thank Nick Setnick in the booth or Nick Setnick on the cameras and Mike Jones in the booth. And, of course, all of our partners here at RCI for everything that they do for us. Finale in the Night Owl Championship. Going to do a little reset here. Urquizy stormed to pole position and has left the field. He has done his pit stop, and that has left Bella Sane, his teammate, out in front of the field. Other dramas, Lebrec and Conway, the two main championship rivals that could theoretically win it today. They started at the back of the field by virtue of saving their qualifying to the end of qualifying and crashing into each other, leading to them not setting a valid lap time. In addition to that, the AM championship leader, Delau, was 7th in class, 14th to 16th overall, leaving Yilmaz way out in front and actually qualifying P1 for the AM class. He was leading the championship as they ran for a while. as was Alistair Gillies. That has all been reset. Lebrec has now went from about 22nd place all the way inside the top 10 and has retaken the as they run points lead. The same can be said for Delau. Yilmaz involved in an incident with another car, and that allowed Delau, and of course also gaining positions on his own volition, to regain the championship lead in AM. And right now, pit stops underway, 90-minute race today, so tire change is mandatory. The majority of the field has taken their stop. Urquizy, the first of the cars that have pitted, with Alistair Gillies second at the moment, but Belisane still leading overall, despite the fact he still has to do a pit stop at some point in the next 42.5 minutes. So, you like what you see? Because we certainly do. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe so you don't miss a single race, and we will be with you here more often than not during the week to run these fantastic races. And this has been just an incredible first half of racing here in the finale. And if you've ever seen an RCI race before, Mike Jones can back me up on this, it isn't over yet.
It definitely isn't. I mean, just look at every single race in the Night Owl Championship, in fact. Jesse and I keep talking, oh, this is happening, this guy's winning, he's doing so well, and this is locked in at this point, and then Ismail Lebrec speeds out of the pit lane on the last lap. And finishes 8th. So, Nürburgring, who didn't spin?
Yeah, pretty much.
Did anybody? You know, so we had pretty much everybody struggle at Nürburgring. A little bit of a light rain going on. It would just lack traction pretty much everywhere. This is on board with your provisional leader at the moment. This is Belisane, Blanton, and Nell, P1, P2, P3, with one of the Lexi behind him. And they have not made their pit stops yet. Sam Hopkins in the AM class currently making his pit stop. That is the teammate of Lehman, who is currently behind Belisane. I believe that is Lehman. They are currently winning.
Belisane has damage.
Does he now?
Yeah.
I can't quite tell from this angle. Oh, he does. That is front end damage on that thing, isn't it? He must have spun at some point, and that's, I mean, Lehman's all over the back of him. So, you know, Belisane is definitely one quick boy, and he would not have an AM class all over the back. Belisane ran a 2:02.9 last lap, which is still pretty respectable, but not for a man of this caliber at the moment. Definitely losing a little aero.
He's got rear end damage too, Mike.
Man, okay, well, we got to look into this one. I'm curious what happened with Belisane. I'm sure at some point here shortly, Nico will tap us on the shoulder and let us know what is going on, as Nico tends to do. Comes on in and taps us on the shoulder.
What you guys don't see or hear is we actually have two people. We've got our race broadcaster director, Nit Setnik. He's in our ear. And we also have Nico. He's another member of the staff here who I'm used to tapping me on the shoulder, handing me slips of paper with bad news on it. But whenever he's not doing that, he typically stands around and just like you would in any normal broadcast, I'm sure Mike can agree, he sort of fills the commentary staff in on things that they possibly didn't see on their monitors. And you guys don't see that. Oh, Mia Swenson's gone off in a big way. Massive damage to the front of Mia Swenson's number 6.
Winkler.
Yes, it is. A big Tokyo drift, and she's going to slam hard into the wall. Massive damage for Mia Swenson. What does that mean for her points totals? Oh, my goodness. Cars streaming by. Massive stuff straight into the pits, Mike.
Yeah, there it is right there. Mia Swenson making that mistake, and it's same thing that happened to Marco Winkler. Marco Winkler, P2 in the AM class. Mia Swenson, P1 in the AM class. And that is double accidents happening there. Swenson is indeed in for a pit stop. Unfortunately, she had already made her pit stop, and her struggles continue. She has just struggled off and on throughout the championship here, showing some excellent pace here and there, and then just making small mistakes. And at Suzuka, a small mistake, as we can see through 130R, means big damage, as we're seeing one of the last men on the track to make his pit stop. In fact, he is the last man on the track to make his pit stop. That is Belisane heading into the pit lane. We're going to see where he shakes out. So at this point, we are no longer provisional in our standings. We've got Urquizy, we've got Gillies, we've got Blanton. Blanton has fallen about a second behind Gillies, still within pouncing range However, Ishmael Lebrec now 1 second behind Blanton. And if I'm being honest with you, Jesse Lee, I don't think Blanton's going to be in P4 too much longer, because Lebrec is breathing down his neck. And while he's going to be able to defend pretty well, as Blanton can do, I don't think he's going to last very long. However, Yimaz here in the number 7 Porsche. Of course, we spoke about him quite a bit during this race. P2 in the AM Class Championship standings, behind Delau, about 6 points behind Delau. However, if we look down the left side of your screen, you will see Delau up in P9 overall, which is, in fact, at this point, Mr. Jesse Lee, P1 in AM Class.
Yeah, it sure is. And I'm curious to see where Belisane, by the way, comes out, because he had damage. He was being hounded by several others, and he's going to be, I don't know where he is going to be, but we're watching Ishmael Lebrec here, and that is Cody Blanton right in front of him right now.
Right behind Urquizy. By the way, I just want to point out, Belisane came out directly behind Urquizy. He picked up quite a bit of time. They are currently going through Dunlop.
I'm curious how Belisane got that damage then, and how much that's actually going to affect him, because clearly with that stop, they did not fix any of that damage on that car. So now I'm curious what that's going to look like and how that's going to be for them. But we're going to stay with Ishmael Lebrec right now, who is trying to get 4th place from Cody Blanton. Ishmael Lebrec started today by telling me that we were not ready, but he wouldn't tell me what we weren't ready for. He said that you guys just aren't ready. Have a good day in the booth. And what I suspect he meant by that was he knew that he was going to have to come through the field today to win this championship. And what a story it has been. The man that started in the 20s in this race has driven his way up with 36 minutes to go. He is in 5th place. He's looking at 4th place, and he can see 3rd place off into the distance there. He could potentially finish on the podium, maybe more somehow? Question mark?
They're not too far back. Look at the split times on the left. They're only a few seconds back of Belisane here. He's going a little bit to the outside, not quite able to get the move done out of here, but I would not be surprised if he makes that into curve 1 very quickly. Before we approach this incident again, Nico tapped me on the shoulder. In fact, while Jesse Lee was talking, I got an update on Belisane. The piece of paper said hashtag Audi 130R things. He pulled a Marco Winkler and spun out in 130R, got himself some damage. So that is 3 or 4 people at this point that we've seen kind of dip out in 130R. This is a dangerous place for these guys tonight here at Suzuka. But Belisane has so far made it work for him. His outlap not too bad at 209.8. Gonna see if he can keep up this pace as we're watching Ishmael Lebrec following Cody Blanton. Lights a flashing, who is currently following Alistair Gillies, and these guys stacking up. 35 minutes left in this race. That is plenty of time for shenanigans here. And again, I'd just like to point out, only 3.8 seconds. Only 3.8 seconds between them and Belisane, and only 2.5 seconds to the lead.
Look at that.
Little mistakes could make this a 5-way battle for the lead.
Lebrec there hit that curb a little harder than he probably wanted to. He was setting up for something, and see how far back he is now in comparison? He was setting up for something.
Mistakes.
Yep, I've done that a million times myself. I try to set somebody up in that corner, and I hit that curb, and then you bottom out, and before you bottom out, it lifts you off the ground. You can't turn, so you have to just sort of abandon ship, and that's why Lebrec is backed off. But Lebrec here very clearly faster. I'm curious if Cody has the speed over Gillies right now. I suspect he does, but I still assume Lebrec has the speed over both of them. As Blanton thinking about making a move, he's actually going to go around the long way. Can he do it? They're going to touch. They're going to touch. They're both going to go off. Actually, it's going to be 3 wide. Lebrec up the middle. Lebrec through the middle into P3 into the chicane. Excellent maneuver there. The 2 cars touching each other and absolutely threading the needle. Ishmael Lebrec, count him up to 3rd.
Watching this again, here comes Lebrec. There's the touch between Gillies and Blanton. There's Lebrec. He sees the hole. It's not even Lambo size. He makes it Lambo size. He dusts through them. going into the chicane, hard on the brakes, just overshooting that corner a little bit to make sure he gets it through. Lebrec now up to P3, sprinting for Bellasane. They're about 5 seconds back. Overall, lost a little bit of time at that, but Lebrec now in that podium position. Blanton did get the move done on Gillies as well, so Gillies now sorted back to 5th. Blanton holds on to his 4th place. However, the positions in front and behind him have flipped. Unfortunately for Gillies, he spent 35 minutes passing Blanton the first time, and he does not have 35 minutes left in this race this time. All the pit stops are taken. These guys are on track for the rest of this race, and Ismail Lebrec has made it to the podium position, and he's going Audi hunting.
Yes, he is. H3 Racing, the only people in between him and the win today. How sweet would it be to start 22nd today and win in the 90-minute finale in the same race that you win the championship? And I'm not betting against Urquizy and Bellasane. I'm just saying that as far as trophy celebrations go, if we could skip one of them and just hand him the thing, that would be less paperwork. I'm kidding, of course. Urquizy and Bellasane are not going to lay over for Lebrec. This is going to get in. We're going to have to monitor for the next couple laps and see if Lebrec has the pace. I'm actually really interested in Bellasane right now. I suspected with the damage that he had after that accident in 130R that he would be incredibly slow. He's actually matching Urquizy's pace right now. So that's a pleasant surprise. So we will see. Mark it down right now of what Lebrec, the delta is back to him. It's looking like it's going to be about what? 4 points.
Oh, does that Bellas? Wait a minute. What just happened, Jesse Lee? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Urquizy just had a really slow lap, and that is Bellasane now breathing down his neck.
That's true. He lost 2.5 seconds. Actually, no. Bellasane got in front.
He did. The sector times hadn't updated yet, so he lost almost 3 seconds on that last lap.
Well, we knew earlier that Urquizy had an issue. You said it at the top of the show, Mike Jones, before the green flag was flown, that Urquizy, you thought, was the driver that was more prone to mistakes. And then we've seen both of them make mistakes, apparently.
No. Wait, no, Urquizy did slide back by. I'm wondering if they had minor contact and Bellasane let him back by, possibly.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Possibly.
That's very interesting. But yeah,
I'm sure we'll get a tap on the shoulder here in a minute.
Bellasane did, in fact, we can confirm Bellasane was in front of Urquizy. And at some point on that previous lap, lap 28, Urquizy did lose 2.5 seconds at least to his teammate. Yeah, now Lebrec was 4.2 seconds back. He's only 3 seconds back now of Bellasane. So something happened there. Bellasane in the 888 did get by, and then somehow Urquizy was either let back by or drove back by his teammate. And look behind him, that shadowy Lamborghini figure down the straightaway. That's the man, the myth, the legend, the number 67 Lamboy. That is Ismail Lebrec.
So, as usual, tap, tap, tap on the shoulder. Urquizy, guess where he lost it, Jesse Lee? I'll give you one guess.
Was it in 130R in an Audi?
You know, Jesse, it did so happen to be, because 130R is not the place to be for, well, any car. I'd say just the Audis, but obviously Mia Swenson as well had the same problem. She got enough damage that she retired out of the race, in fact. So a little bit not quite as bad as Bellasane, Winkler, or Swenson had it. However, Urquizy did lose it in 130R. I will say, though, now that he's gotten back by Bellasane, and there's Winkler off again, this in the Degners this time.
What in the world?
Yeah, that's in the Degners. I think he probably caught the first Degner and threw himself off.
He's just sitting there collecting his thoughts.
Yeah, he is. I think he killed his car.
Yeah, you probably. Oh!
That's Yimaz. That's Yimaz. I believe that's the number 7. That is Yimaz throwing off the Degner that time, and that is whacking Winkler as well before he came out of the sand trap there. So apparently 130R not the only dangerous place. Degner number 1 is where it's going to happen as well. So that is Winkler throwing himself off, Yimaz throwing himself directly into Winkler, and Marco Winkler is having flashbacks. Jesse Lee, do you remember the GT Championship at Spa. Do you remember the race when Marco Winkler, coming out of the pits on the second to last lap, I believe, somebody spun it coming up Eau Rouge onto Radeon and threw it right into Winkler coming out of the pits? I just got remnants of that.
I do. That's such an eerie thing too, because you could see Winkler coming out of the pits, and you could see that there was trouble, but Winkler couldn't see the trouble, and by the time he got there, he was part of the trouble, and that's so disheartening to see things like that. But yeah,
And there's the damage.
Berger Yilmaz just having a terrible day. It started out with such promise. He had a potential to be involved in something spectacular today, but his day has gone undone, and that incident with Winkler, just another he's looking up at the clock and there's 28 minutes to go, and he's like, "Can I just go home, Mom?"
Yeah, at this point, Ema's just not having a great race. Down in 18th position, more damage to be had. He's got Budgeon breathing down his neck now as well. Of course, Budgeon, Mia Swenson's teammate for that Miku Mercs, and just has not done very well. Another thing I like to point out here is Blanton is now in the pits as well. I think that he spun off again, and about where they're at on the track here, I'm almost wondering, Jesse Lee, if it happened to be the infamous 130R, I'm sure that Nico will walk in the door again and just kind of sigh and hand us another piece of paper that says 130R on it here in a minute.
He's going to stop handing us paper slips and just hand us one-finger salutes here in a minute.
Yeah,
what's going to happen. That's exactly how this has gone. It's not been the cleanest race we've seen, and it's a tough track, a tough position.
Here's the thing. Not the cleanest race, but not necessarily because other people are contacting.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, not at all. It's not been a race where drivers have been getting at each other. It's been a race where, what would you call them? Unforced errors or slight miscalculations that lead to harrowing moments. The only car we've seen today that has gotten themselves out of trouble is Ishmael Lebrec. Remember at the start of this race, Ishmael's coming through the field in that 67 Lamboys Lamborghini, and he went through 130R, and he slid the entire corner.
He pulled a Matt Samuel all the way through that corner.
He Matt Samuel'd the heck out of 130R. But here's the thing. He is now less than a second behind Belisane, and by virtue, and Marco Winkler going off again. Yep, guess where and who and in what car. Oh my goodness. At
least he's just already had a ruined race today. I mean, I got a feel for Marco. We did not have the best time at Bathurst earlier today. Got a little beat up early, but he's in the pits again. And Marco Winkler, I mean, for him and Lebo Vodica, who are two of my teammates here, they had a very strong showing. I'm going to get to this on screen in a second. They had a very strong showing in the first race, I believe coming P2 and P4, if I'm not mistaken, and have just struggled ever since then. However, on screen, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to point out that is a Lamborghini that we are currently on board with. And yes, you are not seeing incorrectly. That is a reasonably damaged Audi in front of him, and another Audi slightly ahead of him. Ishmael Lebrec hunting for P1 a last to first challenge from Lebrec today. He's got 25 minutes to do it, and if I'm being honest with you, Jesse Lee, unless he drifts it through 130R into the wall this time, my money's on Ishmael at this point. I don't have any doubts. I mean, this is just ridiculous. These guys are out here just throwing their as much as they can at Lebrec, and he's just not having it. He just doesn't care. He's just, nope, here we go. I'm getting another position.
Well, here's the thing. Does Belisane have any sort of team orders here, as they are H3 drivers and they're friends? Does he merely attempt to hold up Lebrec as long as he possibly can? There's nothing wrong with defensive driving as long as it's done responsibly. So does Belisane do that to try and give his teammate a little bit of leeway, a little bit of space, or even is there anything that they can do? That is an incredibly wounded 888 Audi, and I think I've come up with a new name for Lebrec. I think I'm going to start calling him Captain Canada, because there's nothing more heroic and patriotic than what I've seen today out of the Canadian driver. He's just absolutely been a man on a mission. I didn't think it was even possible. You seemed to believe from the start that it was going to happen, and here we are. coming up to less than 25 minutes of this race left, and Ishmael Lebrec, third place, can see Urquizy and Belisane. This race is very much on. But if I was Lebrec here, I would be very careful about what I do, because these cars have been in the wars today, and in the walls too, for that matter, some of them. And he has to know the characteristics of the Audi. So now that you're this close, you've got to play it safe. As the number 10 of Nerjack does get a
Yep.
drive-through penalty, we have no live stewarding for these
Track limits.
events. So that's going to be multiple track violation warnings.
By the way,
that led
he's
into
in
drive-through.
P3. He's in P3 for AM points.
Oh gosh, it is all coming undone. Championship Saturday, and it's all coming undone. Nerjack does come into pit road to serve that penalty. It is a drive-through. He doesn't have to stop and hold, so he will do that. But nonetheless, he will drop through the field.
Hopkins and Lehman behind him in the points, 7 points back. They're both exactly even. There goes Lehman by him. Hopkins might get by him as well. That would be interesting, because that's a lot of points lost there. Also, Jesse Lee, really quick, just to interrupt your train of thought. Cody Blanton.
Yep.
Hang on.
Lebrec
Hang
thinking
on a
about
second.
taking
There's
it into
Lebrec.
Spoon out of Spoon. They're going to be dead heat. It's going to be a drag race up the back straight to 130R. Lebrec has the position on the inside. Can he hold it? Can Belisane force an error here? Can Belisane use the outside of the track to his advantage? No, he cannot. Belisane incredibly wide, chasing the Audi. Position to Lebrec, second place. One car left for the comeback of everything. Comeback of my life.
Well, I wish I could say I was surprised. I'm really not. Lebrec and this race have just not stopped. Belisane, obviously an excellent driver. Urquizy, an excellent driver. All these guys, excellent drivers. Lebrec is just blowing them out of the water at this point. I mean, he really is. He is just dominating this race every which way he can go. He's now approaching Urquizy, 2.5 seconds back, 21 minutes. But as I was trying to point out quickly, Jesse Lee, before we had this interruption of Lebrec again, Cody Blanton, again, I mean, do I even need to say what happens?
Well, yeah, because they're in an Audi, and an Audi typically doesn't have that issue. Not an Audi, an Aston, excuse me.
It did have the issue.
Did it?
It did. So he caught himself, however, in a different spot. He came off the back end of the 130R curb, and that thing can be just as dangerous.
Yeah.
He threw himself on the inside wall, got loose, spun around to the left as he was just cresting the back end of it, caught just that little dip on the outside of it, and has now dropped all the way to 19th after an awesome showing by Blanton here. He was competing for a podium position just ahead of Gillies, back in P19 after getting some repairs. That's going to drop him quite a way through the points field. This is going to be, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his worst finish. Of course, he has not had a podium finish this entire championship, and yet this man still in P5, 2 points away from P4 in the points. Heartbreaking for Blanton. Of course, in the very first iteration, I'm going to call it Night Owl 0.5, he was the dominating performer in the Ferrari. Decided to go with the little bit of an odd pick with the V12. Go for a little different things in the Night Owl Season 1 here at RCI TV, and has just shown a very strong showing. Doesn't matter what car that man is in, he throws it down. Unfortunately for him, just ahead of Marco Winkler, now 2 laps down from the leader. However, the leader, Mr. Urquizy, might not be the leader much longer. Less than 20 minutes to go, though, Jesse Lee.
I just want to touch on Blanton real quick. Blanton shows you exactly what consistency can do. Maybe you don't have the best car. Maybe you're trying something new. Maybe you don't even finish on the podium. But if you're consistent at what you do and consistently inside the top 10, inside the top 5, good things happen to you. Speak of the devil, by the way, look where Sebastian Brunier is in that 777. They're in 8th place. Talk about consistency. We talked about him before the race even started. He's a perennial top 10 pick of ours for any race. doesn't seem to matter. Doesn't matter if it's night owl. Doesn't matter if it's a team event. He's just there. And this is a man who self-confessed to me at one point, said, we're a back half of the pro field kind of team. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. I was like, you
Would
need
you
to.
like to talk about how he races, by the way? I think
Yeah.
it's an interesting fact.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it really too much in recent to memory, but for those of you that know the Frenchman in the 777, he
Stares
has.
at a wall.
Do what?
Stares at a wall.
Yeah, he stares at a wall when he races, and I know that sounds bizarre, but he races exclusively in VR, regardless of what race it is, how many people it is. He only races in VR. He has a sim rig, as we all do, but the difference is he doesn't have a single monitor. And when I say he doesn't have a monitor, I'm telling you, he stares at a wall. As we go back to
behind him, by the way.
Yeah, Robles is going to get a drive-through penalty for too many track limits violations. Meanwhile, we go back up front. The 404 leading the 67, Urquizy and Lebrec. This is the battle for the win of the race. Lebrec has the championship in hand at this point with 17 and a half minutes to go as the sun goes down. And as Mike Jones says, he does not care. And there's nothing, I could not have said that better myself. He does not care. He wants to win this championship. Of course, interesting to mention, Night Owl was started by you, Mike, specifically to give sort of the Western sort of time span, a later start time in the day to put their talents on display. And I think that's been a success with all the American and Canadian drivers and we've had in this field. And don't forget South America. What we didn't expect when we first started this project was just how many people we would have staying up really late in Europe, in Australia, and places like that would still want to do this. They racers want to race. But it's almost poetic justice that a Canadian is sitting here on the brink of winning this championship that was designed specifically to give them a slightly better start time or a better chance to make all the races. Harry Conway.
Nick Setnick's hitting something.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Nick Setnick has pointed his camera at a car that has just received a drive-through penalty late in the race. You're given 3 or 4 warnings for track limits, and after that, the game auto-assesses, or should I say the sim auto-assesses a drive-through penalty for repeat offenders. That is why the 122 of Robles and the 28 of Conway have drive-through penalties. Now, they have to serve that before the end of the race. Otherwise, they get a massive time penalty.
Within 3 laps, in fact.
Indeed they do. So that's going to be a problem for them. That will likely, for Conway, push Nell past him and maybe Delau and Brunier as well. Maybe even Reisner.
So I'm looking at the points.
Yeah, of course you are. Here you go. Hit me with it.
So here's Alistair Gillies. Alistair Gillies in P3. Conway's in P2. Alistair Gillies is currently 16 points ahead of Harry Conway, or behind Harry Conway.
All right.
I think that Gillies is in his finishing position. I don't think that's going to change unless he wrecks or something, right?
Okay.
So if we hypothesize that Gillies finishes where he's at now, and Harry Conway finishes in, let's say P10 overall. There it is! It is!
Big move.
Number 2.
Rejoin there. Urquizy with that rejoin, Mike. Absolutely incredible. He wants to stay side by side because if he lets him get away, Lebrec is going to be gone. Does he stuff it down into the Dunlop? No, he does not. And that is the move made. And could we get a replay of just how nasty the Degners was? I don't know if we can pick that up on the cameras. Yes, we can, in fact. Nick Setnick with the stall, or with the move here. Go ahead and walk us through this, Mike.
Yeah, so this is Lebrec and them. They're coming through Dunlop here. So here's Dunlop approaching Degner number 1. We're going to see Urquizy hop over the curve here just shortly. There is Dunlop. Here comes Degner number 1. Audi grabs the curb on the outside, throws it into the dirt just slightly. Ismail gets it to the inside, pops over the curb a little bit, and he just accelerates out of that corner like Lebrecht does. That Lambo just getting the grunt out of the corner that the Audi just cannot have, and that is now Bellasane breathing down Urquizy's neck as well. Ismail did overshoot the hairpin just a little bit, but he V'd it just enough that he got the run back out to Spoon, and we are back on board with Urquizy here. That is Bellasane behind him. And ladies and gentlemen, your points leader for the first time this race, starting within the last couple positions, not having done a qualifying lap in P1 with 13 and a half minutes left to go.
I'm going to tell you something. If I'm Lebrecht, and I don't know if Canada has a lottery system, I suspect they do, I would go out and get a lottery ticket, because the sheer amount of near misses, the slide, the contact with other cars, all the little things that could ruin your race, he persevered, he maintained, and he has got all the way to the lead. Excellent drive by that man right there out in front. And we go back to Brunier, who's in sort of a bit of a pickle here, it must be said. That's Delau in front of him and Reisner behind him.
Both
at
AM
this
class,
time.
by the way.
Yeah, both AM. He is the pro in the AM sandwich right now. But nevertheless, this is for a position, and Brunier, with a 777 on his car, would like position 7. How's that for poetic justice?
Adding an additional 7 is always the correct option. However, that Aston grabbed a little bit of that grass there, and that's going to lose him just a bit of time, of course, in the Aston V8. Grabbing a little bit of grass doesn't matter quite as much as, say, hitting into the portion of the Audi. However, you can really see he is losing the pace here. Brunier is doing a struggle, because that is Reisner all over the back of him. Brunier's struggling more than we usually ever see him struggle this much. He, of course, did pit for tires at some point. The Aston is really good on tires. I don't think he has had too much drama since the Mathis incident, so he's just struggling for pace here in the back half of this race, perhaps losing tire pressures as it has gotten cooler throughout the evening here, down to 22C on track. Of course, we started at, I believe it was 27C. That can throw your tire pressures just a little bit, to drop 5 degrees throughout a race if he didn't get in and adjust his tire pressures for the pit stop. But he got a good run coming off the hairpin there. Gapped Reisner a little bit, got back up to Delau a bit, and again, as Jesse Lee likes to say, it doesn't matter if you're fighting for overall point position or not. That is a man in front of Brunier and 2 men in front of Reisner, and they're going to want that position, whether they're fighting for points for that position or not.
Yeah, my whole thing about racing is very simple. If there's a man in front of me, I'd rather them not be in front of me anymore. And that's simply how race car drivers think, and that's just the way it's always been. And Brunier is no different. He's a cut different, like I said. He doesn't have a monitor. He has a wall. I often ask him, because Brunier's a married man, and I ask him, I was like, what does your wife think of all this? He said, well, it's not even that. My wife and my friends think it looks weird. I'm like, well, they're right. You're the one that's weird, Sebastian. Your friends are correct. It looks weird. But nevertheless, he's been out here competing with championships in ACC with that setup, and I couldn't even get, I would assume, in Race Room and other sims, because he's an open visor driver, long before that. I'd have to ask Mark Whitford, his teammate and partner over there at Open Visor. I'd have to ask him, but I assume it's the same in Race Room. Race Room actually really lovely in VR, by the way, Mike. I really enjoy it myself, but I would still have to have a monitor. I could not do what Seb does and just not have one. That makes no sense to me. You're crazy, Seb, but you're out here and listen, results. Maybe I should ditch my monitor. Maybe I could finish top 10 in a pro race.
Yeah, because me and Jesse Lee will absolutely not finish top 10 in a pro race.
Nope.
Time soon. However, Sebastian Brunier goes wide into the hairpin there. That is Reisner down on the inside. However, you can see he loses a little bit of grip, catches the traction control on the exit, and Brunier continues on through P8. Not any closer. It feels like we were about this distance from each other last lap as well. So these guys holding steady here, just fighting. Less than 10 minutes to go in this 90-minute race. Sun has crested back down on the horizon. Lights have been hot for quite a while here. However, it is definitely starting to get dark out there. Nightfall gonna happen. You can see just a touch of light in the sky. Nightfall probably gonna happen here in about 10 minutes when we cross the finish line for the final time. I would like to point out that Ismail Labrak has started gapping the Audis behind him as well, a couple seconds ahead. Belisane and Urquizy in just a little bit of a tussle, perhaps. I know Belisane's going to want that position from his teammate eventually, but he ain't got long left to do it. And of course, he's got that damage from his off in 130R earlier as well. So I don't know that he's going to be able to get past his teammate. Gillies as well, 4th position. That's the thing right there, is that at the moment, Belisane will, in fact, beat Gillies in points, even if he holds in 3rd place. And so that should shift him up into the podium positions. That'll be Labreck, Conway, and Belisane for the final podium position, perhaps, if we finish this up now. And
Oh!
with Riser catching the curve back there. Something I wanted to point out a little bit earlier, Jesse, before we got distracted, was Conway. He will have to finish all the way down in P11 for Gillies to even tie him. So not quite enough, even though he had that drive through for Gillies to get on past. And so he's still at this point struggling for those positions. And I think Gillies is going to have to, Conway is going to lock in that P2 pretty much no matter where he's at. But this battle is just not going to end. Again, not really for points here. Delau, at this point, has got P1 locked in the AM Championship unless something major happens. Reisner not fighting these guys for any sort of points battle, is not within range to be able to beat the person in front of him, Sam Dudgeon, in the point position. So these guys, if we're being honest, just kind of out here racing for fun, which is really what we're all doing anyway, Jesse Lee.
Yeah, I mean, we are. Yeah, we are. I mean, we're out here to have fun, but, inevitably, points championship comes out, and people want to win the big trophies. They want something to take home. And again, racing drivers aren't racing drivers. They see somebody in front of them, they'd rather there not be anybody in front of them. I'd tell you one thing, after this race, those H3 boys, they are going to petition us to get Labreck into Super Pro class, to get them out of their class, because this is just ridiculous what has happened today with the 67 Lamborghini out front. But I was just sitting here thinking, as we wind down with 6 minutes to go and we're watching this battle for 7th, you know what has happened today? When we started this day, everything was upside down. Labreck in the back of the pack. Delau 7th in class, or Delau, I should say, 7th in class. And this is what I was thinking. This is why that Labreck and Delau are in the position they were in coming into today. It isn't that they qualify on pole and walk away from the field. It's really how they race, isn't it? Because look at it now. If we would go back to 45 minutes ago, this race looked completely different than it does now. We have this man leading the race, and Delau, who was literally nowhere halfway into this race. We were still scratching our heads near the pit stop time of what was going on. But look, Delau, 7th overall. As far as I know, he's 1st in class right now.
He is.
Just an amazing job. What a turnaround. What a great race. And as we press ever closer into the inky blackness of night, the stars begin to shine through the sky, and you wouldn't want to be driving out here without headlights at this point. It would be downright dangerous. This just goes to show the way that these guys got into a position to win this championship is likely because of their consistency and their ability to make positions and keep out of trouble. But we go back to this. That was very nearly a pass there by Sebastian Brunier on Delau. Delau proving, oh, he's going to mess it up. He's going to mess it up, and they're going to touch. He's going to touch. Reisner touches Delau, comes all the way back. Delau was able to see that, I think, is what happened there, Mike. I think Delau saw this because compromised. Brunier's exit was compromised. Reisner gets up there. Reisner way late on the brakes, trying to ditch it. Yeah, and Delau sees it. Delau probably had the radar up, right? He probably saw that, was able to lock it down to keep himself from getting spun. But all that did was spread out that group and maybe upset Delau and Brunier a little bit that Reisner did that. But Reisner, the loser in that respect, because he's now 2-3 seconds off of Brunier. And now it becomes a question of, can Brunier catch Delau for one last ditch effort here in these final 2.5 laps?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, Brunier is definitely going to give it a shot. You know, as we know, it doesn't matter if you're fighting for class; he's going to give it a shot anyway. I think he had the pace on Delau, though we could see he was struggling through certain sections of the track, especially this one right here. Right, he was struggling through the Dagners earlier, but he's still going to be hot on the tail there, on the back of Delau, and of course, looking back just through the field a little bit, Belisane is still within a second of Urquizy as well. They're going to try and kind of wrap up that long-term battle for position. In fact, the timing screen just updated. Belisane's now within 6/10 or so. So he picked up a few tenths in the last sector. Brunier second back from Delau. Lehman back in 12th place, only less than a second behind David Gill. That will be a battle for overall points position for them as well. Budgeon fighting Mathis back in the back of the grid. Of course, Budgeon and Mathis, were doing pretty well. They had pretty reasonable runs starting at the top of the race anyway, and unfortunately got caught up in those incidents. Mathis getting punted off the track, and Budgeon just not having that great of a race himself. Budgeon and Mia Swenson, of course, being teammates. Budgeon's in the 6th place overall position in the points, and I think he's pretty much going to hold on to that at this point. He should not lose to Marcin Reisner there, who we just saw dive under Brunier and Delau a moment ago. Matt Lehman and Sam Hopkins, P12, P13 overall for the Lacking Liveries Racing, should have the team championship locked down in AM. The Lexi doing very well throughout this entire championship. They've only gotten 3 podiums out of the 8 allowed for them so far, but that just goes back to show how consistency really matters, especially for these team championships. Same thing for those H3 racing guys, right? They've only gotten 1 win and 3 podiums out of the 8, but they've still just dominated the point standings. They're almost 15 points up from their next rivals, and so far P2, P3 is going to put them much farther ahead. But there is Brunier ahead of Delau. I don't know if I missed it, Jesse Lee, but did Delau go off circuit there?
I don't know if he went off circuit. I did not see it. I was watching Urquizy and Belisane to see what they were going to do. But I don't know if he went off. I don't suspect he did. I just think that Brunier got to him and got that pass completed, unless I'm very much mistaken. It doesn't seem like he went off. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be as close as he was. But
probably.
Pass made, 7th place to Brunier. Probably won't be able to catch Conway unless something crazy happens. So that'll probably be where Mr. Brunier finishes. But fantastic race for him. And we are watching, of course, the man with the plan, the only man to slide a car here today and live to tell the tale. It is Ishmael Lebrec, the Canadian driver for the Lamb Boys. He was supposed to be partnered with Ryan Gill for this championship. Ryan was not able to make a lot of the races, unfortunately. Would have been interesting to see that team battle between H3 and Lamb Boys, but it just it did not amass as his teammate was unable.
Technical issues with his wheel.
Yeah, it was not able to compete, and that's unfortunate. That you never want anything like that to happen. That's an expensive repair, especially when your wheel blows out like that.
Yeah,
but
not quite as expensive as a Lambo's wheel itself would be, but expensive nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly.
As Lebrec gonna come through 130R here for the final time this evening, 7:30 p.m. sim time here at Suzuka in Japan, breaking into the chicane for the last time here. Ishmael Lebrec, Night Owl, Season 1. This will be your championship winner for the Lamb Boys, the 67 Lamborghini. Me and Jesse talked just so much about Lebrec. He's going to weave down the front straights, cross the line. That's going to be a Porsche down behind him. You see Urquizy a little bit there in the background. There goes Belisane around the corner. Gillies around the corner as well. Nell pretty far behind them at this point. These top 4 and Blanton did, just exclusively dominating race across the top 5 until Blanton had his issue. He did make up a position, I noticed, by the way. at least up to 18th. But Lebrec dominating the overall points, finishing this 5-round championship with what is that, Jesse Lee? That is 5 fast laps. He got the fast lap every race, 3 wins, and 4 overall podiums out of 5 races.
Not bad. I'd be happy with that. I'd take it to the bank. And to Ishmael Lebrec, I only have one thing to say to you. You told me today that we were not ready, and you were correct. We were absolutely not ready. Harry Conway came across the line 6th. That was incredibly good considering he spent most of the early part of this race outside the top 20. So him being able to get back to 6th was also an incredible job. 7th will be Sebastian Bertier, and then your champion in AM, Delau, will win in that 911 Porsche. He'll win in AM and finish 8th overall. And Reisner 9th, Silva 10th, and now David Gill and Lehman 11th, 12th come across the line. Looks like it's going to be Hopkins, Nerjak, Robles, Yilmaz, Mathis, Blanton, Budgeon, Winkler, and yes, I think that will be the people that finish. And of course, retirees of Swenson, Fox, Jelinek, Bess, and Sarley are the ones that did not finish this race. But what an incredible championship. What an incredible series. Like I said, it took us 8 months longer than we ever thought it would take us to get to this point, Mr. Mike Jones. But fantastic championship. Congratulations to Ishmael Lebrec winning the Pro Championship and Delau winning in AM. It was a great season. It came down to the last race. It came down to the final few passes, actually, in a lot of these cases. So fantastic stuff. And just want to take a moment again to thank you guys for joining us for this championship. It's been a wild ride. We didn't really know how people would receive the later races. We know for a lot of our European audience, it's a bit later in the evening, but you guys have stuck with us, and we hope that you've enjoyed this championship and will join us in congratulating all the drivers that took part finishing the series out. And one more time, I'd like to invite you to leave a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a single race. And in addition to that, thank you to all of RCI's partners who make this incredible stuff happen. Final thoughts, Mike Jones.
Yeah, I mean, you about summed it up, Jesse Lee. Congratulations to Ishmael Lebrec. Of course, Harry Conway did come back in 2nd overall for the points. Gillies in 3rd. Bellassane and Urquizy 4th and 5th. However, Bellassane and Urquizy for the H3 racing team will take home the team points championship in Pro. Delau, of course, in 1st. Got to finalize the rest of the AM results, as that might have a little bit of a shakeup. We'll have to take a look at those ones a bit later. But absolutely down to the wire. Everybody besides for Lebrec was just up in the air, and even then we had Lebrec up in the air at the beginning of this race as well. Been fantastic casting with you today, or for this championship, Jesse Lee, and of course our camera guy Nick Setnick here for a few of our races. Thank you to Jake Boswell and Stewie for filling in for us for a couple of races when Nick was out. Guys, I think Jesse Lee and I have never been out of breath more in a championship ever. We hope you'll join us Monday for the McLaren Championship, Cup Masters Championship. I apologize. That will continue on Monday. Friday, of course, our Friday Endurance Championship. Jake will be live without commentary on Wednesday for our SGP Championship. However, first and foremost, before that, race qualifying for our 12 Hours of Bathurst tomorrow. We've got 2 splits going on tomorrow. We will be broadcasting 30 minutes of qualifying, followed by a 10-person Super Bowl for the 12 Hours of Bathurst. 12 Hours of Bathurst does air on October 17th. Me, Jesse, and Nick will join one of the commentary teams. We will bring you hours 3 to 6 and 9 to 12. Ryan, Jesse, and Stewie will bring you commentary and broadcast the rest of the hours through the 12 Hours of Bathurst. But tune into the qualifying tomorrow to find out how that will start. And guys, come on back to RCI TV, subscribe, like, and we will see you next time.
When you feel it's hopeless, when you think that you're lost, oh, I will take your hand and we'll rise up. knows that we're holding on. Even if we fall, we will rise up and